welcome to season 3, episode 1. Right, we made it here. And again, today is not the ideal day to start a Zoom garden plot meeting, but it will get warm again. And we will, again, plenty of people have planted stuff. I'm sure Bill, knowing Bill, will have 400 things already in the ground and ready to harvest. I'm going to try to follow we came up with a good format last year, I think, of we're going to give a few updates and then questions. Bill, Sarah, now Michelle and Michael are not with us this evening. They're doing other stuff, but they will definitely be joining us in future Zoom garden plot meetings. And again, we're going to do it the 2nd and 4th of the month, and probably start at 8 o'clock when the weather gets a little bit nicer, because we all want to be out in the garden.
Yes.
And I'm all about getting right to it. So we're going to start with my common ground community garden. Hopefully we're going to go there this weekend and add to it. But, again, not a ton to show at this moment. Basically, that's a little garlic is coming up. I planted a few rows of garlic and bulbs we planted around front. So that's what's coming up now. The other day I planted spinach, arugula, and radish. Hopefully not too early, but we did it like a week or two ago. And did you put the other pictures in, Christy? Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. There's a overall view of our beautiful garden. I'm hoping to stain the fence a little bit. I just feel that does look a little bit like a prisoner yard a little bit with that for that wood. And we were at a meeting and a woman did say that to me, so it's stuck in my head. But we have a lot of really great ideas to add to the beautification of the garden, and especially around the fencing area. And we did plant a bunch of perennial trees. Now, for the thing with our garden is that it's we were given the garden because it has a very high water table. So the mayor was gave us leased us this land. So it is a little tricky. It is tricky knowing how it's going to affect the trees, because are they going to drown? You guys might want to mute yourself if you're or Christy, maybe you can mute that person. Sometimes we mute everyone and then they just unmute when it's time to talk.
Okay.
So I'm really hoping that we can grow some trees and more perennials, because it does around the sides and the back get, when it rains, the water really stays there. So that's something we really want to work on this year. I think we have one more picture. That was it.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm starting seeds. We have a few people. Oh, here's, again, it does look a little bit like grave mounds at this point. But this Thursday, actually, speaking of peas, we're doing a nice project with the elementary school. And I'm gonna hopefully get some great pictures of, we're gonna plant peas all the way around all the sides of the garden. First, all the grades, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. So it's going to be a lot of peas. We're going to grow everywhere. And then we're going to give them a little cup with some soil and a pea to take home. So, I think that should be a nice project. And we sent them a few videos and an instructional manual just to kind of make them feel part of this. So I really want to introduce people to the garden, and then especially get the kids in as early as possible. So I'm really looking forward to that Thursday, and hopefully someone can come and help me, because that's going to be a lot of key. There'll be teachers there, but that's a lot of children, and we don't have much, and we don't have anything to really squish yet. So I won't be too stressed out. And then hopefully they come back, around 60 days from now, and they could harvest their own, because they're going to bring a popsicle stick. That was Sylvie's idea, great idea. We're going to give everyone a popsicle stick with their name on it. So when they plant, they're going to leave that in that spot. And then hopefully they'll be able to, really feel like a personalized feeling. Mm-hmm. And the question is, it's true. When it comes to seed starting, I'm getting myself a little crazy that I don't start in time. Then I start too early, too late. Sarah seems to have it down to a science. And Nicole, I don't know if you've started anything this year, but I know you're really good at it, but I find it very overwhelming sometimes, seed starting. So that's my brief update. Obviously, the updates get a little more exciting as the season goes along, but this is where we are at this moment.
So Chad,
Yes.
I had a question. Last fall, it wasn't exactly fall, I think it was August, September, October, we had a lot of rain at the end of each of those months. And I didn't realize how much we had until I saw the January summary of the rainfall amounts for the year. And so how did your garden actually do in terms of wetness at the end of the season last year? During those 3 months, did you find that the water was coming up, or you didn't have no problem, or?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I mean, thank God we did a great job in the main growing area because we layered 50,000 cardboard boxes and about this much wood chips, maybe 7-8 inches of wood chips. And then above that, we put, another 7, 8, 9 inches of soil we got brought in. So that stayed good. And like the middle area seems to be best. On the side where we planted a lot of perennials, that when we had that giant rain event of like 10 inches in that one day, the water really never went down. So I'm going to see what even survived that. So, and the back area gets very muddy. So yeah, that is, the areas where I planted the trees, I'm hoping we're a little bit more in that raised area. But yeah,
Right.
but our main growing area is really good. But I can't build that the whole lot up with. I would love to ship in 6,000 tons of wood chips and grow. So we do need to find a way maybe to build a little like a little drainage stream just to empty some of the water out because it is helping. It is holding off on me doing that. But thank you for asking. But yeah, the growing area did well, but the other side areas were really waterlogged.
What about in those areas if you did like a hugelkultur mound and just try to help yourself out instead of building up, like build
Yeah.
yourself up with matter that'll break down over time that you're not going to spend a fortune on, but you'll just have to watch, I guess, how you're reshifting the water, right? And changing kind of the angles of things, but it's a thought.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to do that. Like Sylvia also had a great idea of, we got a great video of, we might try on the side, especially to get like a bunch of planters, put them on kind of almost on top of the soil and like mound around them. So they're almost raised above the soil. Like we're not going to even dig into the soil anymore. So, we're giving ourselves another 5-6 inches. So I think we might try that. And that was a really smart idea. We're probably going to do maybe potatoes and get also buckets. We're going to probably do a lot more of a planter.
Is there any lower area around you that you could send water to, or then the neighbors would be after you or something?
No. Well, Christy, maybe if you go back, I don't know if you could see it in that last picture that shows the whole garden, probably not, but if you want to just share the screen again.
This one?
No, one more back.
Mhm.
You can't see my mouse, right? Could you?
No.
Oh, well, on the right side of the garden, that's actually like a little creek. That's like a drainage creek,
Okay.
which is not, so actually see how those rocks are all piled up?
Right.
If you look down there, that's all water. So we could find, if we could find a way to kind of drain everything into that would be excellent. But some of it's a pretty long distance to go down there.
Like a French drain? Get a French
Yeah.
drain in there?
Yes, like, again, if someone had some, knowledge to come over, and I would dig, I just don't. We know a guy, Christopher Harrison. I've been asking him a little bit. He's like a water expert dude. And I'm sure Bill, has a good knowledge.
Well, there's plenty of things you can do, but as long as you have lower ground, okay. So
Yeah, right. So, we do have that creek right next to us, which is literally built there to drain the water into from all the different areas. So if we could drain the water into that would be nice. But last year, and we're going to do more of that stuff. Like last year, we were just building the fence. We were just like starting everything. So now we could get on top of some of those other projects this year, I'm hoping. But
And I
there's
heard you say potatoes too, and think like Michael loves, right? When it's like the chicken wire with the hay and you grow
yes.
potatoes above. So, and you would just be helping build in like your own compost pile below.
Yeah, those are good ideas. We probably should think of just building on top. Like I was thinking of maybe even making an herb spiral, where we just get a big straw bale and, cover it with soil and put the rocks around it. And again, so the whole thing is, above ground level. So again, we're not really relying on digging into the ground. So yeah, well, there's definitely strategies, but if we can get rid of the water altogether, that would be nice. As well.
I've seen that where they use bales of hay. I've seen that on videos where they actually, like you were talking about, take the bales of hay and actually they add soil to it and it kind of decomposes as the plants grow in it.
Right, yeah.
It's a great idea.
Or like Nicole, the hygge culture. I don't know if I ever
Yeah,
said
that's
that word.
another good idea. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Those are big mounds. Yeah, but yeah. I would like to, I'm trying to keep everything somewhat attractive. I don't know. If it was up to me again, I'd be doing much more of the hygge, but I don't know if they wanted to see big mounds of stuff because we are in a residential neighborhood and I'm trying to keep this
But
looking very
some
nice.
of those Google culture mounds, Chad, I've seen them do it where you're getting a big basin, like you can cover and make the outside nice. Because
Yeah.
it really, a lot of people, it's like fauling the bottom, right? Because you don't need that much planting depth, but you're still creating and basing up your soil and just filling it with that. It's lasagna, right? The cardboard, the branches, the leaves, the sticks, it's all the
Yeah.
browns and just building up. So you don't have to see it. There are ways to make it
Yeah,
attractive.
you're right. You're right. No, I appreciate it. These are all really good ideas. Thank
I've
you.
seen them with big logs. They put big, huge trunks in there as the
Yeah.
base. And
Right, you want to get like rotted, the wood that's
Yeah,
rotting.
yeah, yeah.
That's like a sponge, that breaks down. It's supposedly amazing. I studied this guy. Why am I going blank? He's from Austria. I'm blanking out. He's a very famous permaculture guy, Sepp Holzer, who is the king of that. He does those hygge culture. He has a whole community garden of that, like giant mounds that you could kind of, the garden's almost more like a maze, and you just pick
Yeah.
from they're almost 6, 7, 8 feet high. So you walk around and you can just it's growing out of the sides. I don't have the guts for that. I would like to.
I'm gonna experiment with that in mine this year. I bought a Vago garden raised bed. It's a metal raised bed, and I'm gonna do the lasagna and the wood and everything and see how that goes and give it a shot because it's supposed to be really
but
good.
you should study look into Sepp Holzer a little bit. Sepp
Oh,
Holzer.
yeah, I will. Thanks.
He's quite brilliant.
And I can't remember her name from last year. Remember she had that keyhole garden going?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Leslie.
yeah.
Leslie. Yeah,
Leslie.
Leslie. Hopefully she'll join us.
Same idea. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, that was very successful.
Yeah, she had great success with that.
And I see Michelle has joined us.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
I'm glad you made it. She's one of the co-hosts. So I'm glad you're here. She was not sure if she can make it. All right, I think who's next? Bill's update, I believe.
Yes.
If you want. Okay, and again, everyone can mute if possible. And
Okay, I have 4 slides that I wanted to show you that are showing what I'm doing now. And this one is in my basement on a little shelf, kind of. And this is my seedling production factory. I start my seedlings there, and you can see a lot of those are brassicas because I started them several weeks ago, and I've actually transplanted them about 2 days ago. So they're all in pots now, individual pots. And then behind that, you see the heating pad that I use. And so plants that like heat to germinate, or seeds that like heat to germinate, I put them on there. And I cover them with a plastic so they don't dry out too quickly, because that's what tends to happen with those. They dry out in a half a day or a day. And they germinate reasonably well. And then they go under the light. This is just two bulbs, the standard fluorescent bulb in one fixture. And I have it on chains, and I put it about 1 inch over the tops of the plants. So it doesn't stay in the position it is in. I just bring it down. But for the picture, I wanted to get the back part and the front part. So I lifted it up. So anyway, I've used this thing for 25 years. It works. It's simple. And it actually grow enough plants in here to fill a 4,000 square foot garden. So
wait, just that little area?
Yeah, just that little area.
What?
Now they get moved. They get moved to. I have a 10-foot window in a room facing south. And so I have a table along there. And as the plants go into individual pots, they go in front of that window. And then they go outside when the weather is warm enough to season them so that harden them off. And yeah, I grow, you know how many brassicas there are in here? There's, I transplanted them. I think I got 70 brassicas out of this. So.
And you able to pick them out, like just like with your fingers? Like they're all in one tray, right? Oh my God.
Yeah, what else would I do it with? My
I
fingers,
don't know,
that's
like,
all I have to
a lot
work
of
with.
people do individual, they do individual tray.
Yeah, no, I gently
Wow.
lift them up, and sometimes there's several that are intertwined. And the thing to realize about little plants like that, you're better off handling them from the leaf, okay, as opposed to the root. So you're very careful not to damage the roots. And you can untangle them if you do it very carefully without damaging the roots. And then I just hold them by the stem or leaf very gently, because you don't want to break off a leaf or break a stem, and then put them into a bigger pot and just plant them. It
So
works.
what do you have on the heat mat back there right now?
A couple brassicas that didn't germinate, probably bad seed. It was probably 3 or 4 year old seed. I was hoping it would germinate. It didn't. And there's also, they're not here right now, but I started my peppers and eggplant. So it's about time to start those because they take a much longer time to get bigger. And it's actually almost time to start tomatoes, although I hate to do it at this early because they get so big. And I usually have about 30 tomato plants, and then I run out of room really because I don't know what to do with them. Anyway, I can answer questions on this later unless you have questions now. But it's pretty straightforward.
No, it's just so funny because I overcomplicate things. So like it's just so simple. I love it. I make it so complicated.
I can't do anything but simple. I have to do it simple. Okay.
Do you do any cuttings?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
How
sorry.
far away did you say you have the light from?
About an inch, and it's adjustable so that as the plants grow, the light goes up. And if I have too many plants, what I'll do is I'll put half the plants under the light for 12 hours and then move them and put the other half for the other 12 hours. So you can get more plants getting light before they go to the window. And for the window, I have reflectors behind the table so that they get even light, because if you put plants in front of a south window, they all tend to go to the light and they get bent. So if you put some reflectors behind them, they tend to straighten up pretty well.
Bill, that's so smart. The reflector thing is genius. It's so smart. Instead of
the reflectors are part of, I have a window there, and I have movable insulation with the reflective surface on the back. So when I take the movable insulation out, I just stick it behind the table and leave it there until I put it in the next night. And it reflects the light for the plants. You know, when you get old, you have to do things simple. You know, you can't be messing around.
amazing.
No, it's smart. And just it's important to have the light close down to the plants because otherwise they get very leggy.
No,
So
you
that's
have to have
whoever asked that question, right?
Yeah, you have to have it about an inch. Okay,
Oh, I just had a question about cuttings. Do you do anything with cuttings? I'm specifically looking for information on rosemary. I have a 12-year-old rosemary plant that I've been overwintering, and it's getting to the end of its life. It's not going to make it, and I want to take cuttings because I've trained it to be very cold hardy, so I can leave it down to about maybe 12 degrees, 15 degrees before I have to bring it in. And it's difficult to get rosemary plants to get down that cold without having major damage. But I want to get cuttings from it. And I've read things about potatoes and this and that. And I was just wondering if you had any advice or anything.
I've never done it with rosemary, but what we do with our plants is we put a little circular wire that's about 2 to 3 feet in diameter, and then fill that with leaves to keep it alive over the winter. And we were successful for the past couple of years in keeping the old, the other ones alive. And it seems like you did that too, if you've had a plant for 15 years. But after 15 years, you should just go out and buy a new one.
Yeah, it's more sentimental. I don't, she's like an old lady. I don't want to kill her. I want her to live.
Take clippings and try, put them in, try some in water, see if that works, but try some in some soil. And don't put them in, probably in sunlight, put them in indirect light, and, keep them from extreme temperatures and see if they root. I mean, they probably will.
I mean, she's probably got a couple more years left, but I've become attached to her. Every winter, the pot's probably 7,500 pounds, and every fall I got to drag her into the garage, and every spring I got to drag her out. And I just don't want to give up on her right now.
Yep, well, try some things.
Yeah, and you could try a little rooting hormone too before you put them in the water to see if that helps her.
Yeah, thanks.
I've
I'm
heard
gonna have to get that.
also putting a little plastic bag over the pot that the cutting is in, just to keep it a fairly humid and controlled environment in there.
That's a good idea too. Yeah.
I'll
have to
let heat on.
Thanks for the advice.
Okay, I have several cold frames and I've used them through the winter, but to tell you the truth, the kind of winters we've been having lately, the cold frames don't do all that much. The plants barely survive, but they don't grow. But this is something I just put out maybe 4 or 5 days ago before I realized how cold it was going to be. But it's about 50 spinach plants that I put in there. And I looked at them today. They did fine last night. They're very hardy. So, and they were hardened off before I put them out. So I expect these to do well and, get spinach over the next maybe a month from now, a month and a half from now. And the cover is just some wood with 2 layers of plastic wrapped around it. And that should take care of any really cold weather like tonight when it goes down to 16. They should be okay, I hope.
Bill,
Anyway.
I know you do a lot of succession planting with your lettuce, and you
Right.
said you have about 50 spinach in there right now.
Yep.
How long of a run will that get you, and when will you start your next round?
I have spinach in the greenhouse right now. I have an outdoor greenhouse, and this is the next round of 50 plants. And I did that because I had 50 plants. I didn't even plan. I overplanted the spinach. And my problem is when I overplant something, I tend to plant every plant that grows. So that's why I have 50 plants. And if it comes up and they grow, I'll eat them. So, so that's, I didn't plan on 50 plants.
So, and you said there's some in the greenhouse now as well?
Yeah, and that's what you're looking at right now. This is a 16 foot by 18 foot greenhouse in the middle of the garden, and it's unheated. And this is how I grow my winter greens. So what I do is I use the fabric, a heavier fabric that covers them at night. And then in the daytime, I just lift it off. And so in the 3 beds, you're seeing 2 of the 3 beds. They're all about the same in terms of being full of things. This is spinach. Whoops. This is spinach that I'm putting my pointer to, if you can see that, right in the front on the left. But there's also some spinach over here, and lettuce and beets and chard and kale and more lettuce. And so anyway, so this is the other side. The middle got a double shot, okay? Because you can't, I just can't get a picture of all 3 beds at the same time. So anyway, it was successful. This is the 7th year that I've done this. And the way I work it is really simple. I plant out large plants in half the greenhouse in the beginning of November. And then I put small plants, seedlings, in the other half of the greenhouse at that time. And then we eat, I put in kale, collards, and chard. And they're full-size plants at the time I put them in there. And then we just eat from those. And that takes us about 2 months, 2.5 months, and to eat them back. In fact, January was so cold this year that they didn't grow very well at all in January. I mean, they were live, but they just weren't growing. So by the end of January, they looked sort of like stalks. I mean, they were just eaten. And there was just this stalk with a couple little leaves on all of those. We went away for, these are the kale, collards, and there's some new plants in the front. Whenever there's room, I plant some new plants, some bok choy and some more lettuce and stuff like that, and escarole. So anyway, and we eat off of that for a couple months, but then the other stuff starts to grow. But then at this time of the year, everything grows again. So now we have everything. The whole greenhouse is now full. Collards, and the collards are actually starting to flower, so they're going to be gone in a week. But the kale and chard are probably going to last in a couple more weeks, and then the other stuff will last and into the end of April or so.
And then I
Anyway.
noticed you have those water bottles to help retain the heat, right?
Yeah, they when the sun's out in daytime, they warm up a little bit, and when I cover them up at night, the heat radiates out. It's kind of like the earth works, you know, the ocean, it keeps the land warm, and the bottles keep the plants warmer. And even in the coldest winter this January, the plants were happy. I mean, they never were looked like they were freezing. They looked pretty comfortable under the fabric. And I would just go out in the winter and just throw the fabric off, pick, and get out. That's all you do in the winter is just pick. When it gets to be spring, over the past month, I had to water a few times, maybe once or twice a week I'd have to water. And now I've noticed there's a few slugs coming up. It's getting warmer, and the aphids are thinking about making a major attack. So I've got to get my defenses back. Anyway, that's where I am right now.
So you're saying besides up until like 2 weeks ago or so, you haven't been watering? Like you don't have to water, really?
No, in the winter you don't water at all. It stays cold enough that you don't get much evaporation. Plus you've got the fabric over it. And so for like December, January, and half of February, maybe even all of February, you don't have to water. And you don't have to weed. All you have to do is go out there and pick.
Thank you.
Wow, very impressive. Really,
So impressive.
you're incredible, Bill. You really need to do a sustainable workshop.
Mhm.
All right, so before we go into the next one, in honor of our tradition in Zoom garden plot, about halfway through the session, we usually do a wiggle in place for a minute. We kind of stretch, and this is a tradition Michael started. So if you all mind, we're going to just take a break for a minute to get up because we sit around all day. Sorry about that. Shimmy in place. That's the term I was looking for. Sorry, I jumped around, Christy. And see you guys in a minute, but stretch and move. All right, I'm all shimmied out. Welcome back. All right, where were we at? Sarah? We're gonna we're doing probably a few more updates than usual, but this was the first episode, so I didn't know how many people are gonna show up. So Sarah, if you'd be so kind to show your method of starting seed.
Sarah, you're muted.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
there we go.
Barbara was it High Mowing? I took a class from her years ago, and these are the trays she uses. These, you can buy little ones for herbs. These have 72 cells, and they're about 2 to 3 inches deep. So what I do is these seeds are some of the seeds are older. I usually only put 1 seed per cell. If I'm not sure, I put 2 seeds per cell. And I also use the heat mat, which is that black thing down at the bottom. Up at the top, you see a roll of painter's tape. And that's my little watering can I found at Target that has a really fine nozzle to water my seedlings. You'll never find one again. You know, it's like the $5 closeout. But then you can see on the right-hand side, because the big challenge is keeping track of what you planted. So with the peppers, there's 6 across. So most of the peppers I did 6 plants. There's a couple ones, the habaneros, and there's something called a lipstick that we all like. I did 12 of those. And when I start, they're in this tray. So I put the tape down and write the names along it. And then I put the plastic wrap over it and the heat. And the peppers, I started these a few weeks ago, but you know, they come up relatively quickly with the heat. All up, most of them are up. And now, as you can see, now I have to move them under the lights. But that's how I start most of my seedlings. Another time, Chad had mentioned, I didn't get it together for today. I'm going to show you the cell block method. Sometimes I do cell blocks for tomatoes because they're bigger. But and then I do the same thing Bill does. They go under lights, you put the lights down, move the lights around. Then when these get maybe 2 or 3 true leaves, then they go into 4-inch containers. I put 2 in a container. And by that time, hopefully they can go outside onto the deck. I have one of those portable greenhouses. So it's not good for super like now, but once we get to reasonable weather in April, usually, I'll start with just putting them out on the deck during the day to get them, you know, accustomed. And then when it's, you know, not freezing at night, no chance of it, then I'll leave them out there until it's time to put them in the garden. And extra surprise, I don't know if you can see this, but I started rosemary from cuttings this year. And what I did, because
Tell Mark what you did.
I also have a rosemary plant, not as big as yours, but I've lost them over the years. The trick is I bring it into the mudroom, and what you know how they get leggy in the winter, at least mine does. So this was a couple months ago. I went out and I cut the little thin pieces off the top. You don't want to use the wood, you want to use the new growth. So I cut them off and I took these little water cups and put holes in the bottom. And then I put rooting hormone on them, seed starting mix. And then this was my mini greenhouse. This was a piece of Tupperware type stuff I didn't like. And I found that 6 cups fit in here. And I don't know what I did with the top, but I took the same thing, another one, and drilled holes in the top for ventilation, and then covered it up and put painter's tape and sealed the whole thing up and watered it really good. And I put it in my window with the most light, and there's a heat vent underneath there. And I left it there for weeks. And then one day I checked it and there were roots, and I've left it alone since then. And now the cover's off And probably pretty soon I'll move them into a larger pot, but it worked. So all you need is a rosemary plant, but don't try to do it with the woody part.
Yeah, mine go in suspended animation because I keep them in the garage. So I just try to keep them with very little light, and I just try to keep them suspended almost all winter. So they don't usually put out too much of the. I know what you're talking about that weak new growth because they're really not growing. But now they are. So maybe I can grab a couple of those soft tips and try to.
You know what I
try to
mean?
get them.
If it's what you want to do, bring them in somewhere. Like I have a mud room it's warm, but it's not really heated, and there's light, but not, that much, not great light in the winter. So it's perfect because I push a lot of stuff in there. So bring it somewhere where it's going to get leggy. It'll get leggy quick. And then
Yeah, I know.
take
I used to do that, but then I get real bad aphid problems. So I try to keep it like suspended. I try just to keep it alive, almost like I don't want it to grow, but I don't want it to die. And I'm pretty
No, I know.
successful with it, because if I bring it indoors to a warm area, I know you're saying they get leggy, but then the aphids that, are on every plant, because they're all over, all of a sudden they just blossom in the heat. And they take over the plant and I usually lose them. And mites too, that's another problem too. I get the mites on them.
Well, this room, it used to have a heat thing, which doesn't exist anymore. So I use a heater in the winter, but I also have a dog door, which keeps it's right off the kitchen. So it's a perfect winter temperature for as many plants as I can stuff in there, because it's not too warm, but keeps things alive nicely.
Yeah.
So you can do it. You can propagate rosemary. I looked it up on the ever popular YouTube, and yoo-hoo, it works. In the garden itself, we've planted our peas 2 weeks ago. And, I'm not sure. We had that nice warm spell, and now it's gotten really cold. And the seeds are about a year old, because I usually keep the seeds. I don't buy new seeds every year if I don't have to. So I'm not sure if that batch will come up or not. I have the troops putting in another round. Last week was cold. We've just been doing cleanup, and we're building a new bed in the orchard, but that's another story. So I have a crew the troops putting in another round of peas this weekend. But the trick with peas is you have to soak them. I soak them for a minimum of 24 hours. You can't leave them in water too long, because then they kind of ferment and they will start to root. But if you don't soak them, it takes weeks, and the soil really, I have a soil thermometer. The soil this weekend was just barely at the minimum temperature, and we've had these 2, really cold nights. So I'm not sure. So if you haven't put them in, I wouldn't worry about it. You still got plenty of time.
All right, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
We're going to the next slide. And by the way, if people don't know, Sarah runs the community garden in Warwick, which is really awesome garden. I'm sure we'll see pictures as we go. And now, Lisa, if you want to tell a little bit about your little seed starting, or if you have any questions, or if you want to tell.
Small, it's very small for sure. But last year when I started this off, they look so cute. They're very easy to manage when they're in these little starter pods. And then when they get to the next stage, they take up so much space on that, where you have like the bullet light that I do. So I had these seeds left over. I was inspired from our last Zoom, and I figured, like, why not just try these seeds from last year? And this is only from like less than 2 weeks. This is what they've done. There's a light. You can't see it in this picture. It seems like it got cut off, but there is like a light that you can see the prongs, the metal prongs on the side. That's just over it. It's like exactly the same size. It's some zucchini on the right, and then there was pepper seeds in the middle that aren't doing anything, so those might be duds. And then the rest is a salad mix that I've gotten. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Now, at this point, zucchini, I think, well, in my opinion, that's way too early, right? Everyone, yeah.
Way too early.
Yeah, like, like with zucchinis, all that squash, zucchini, the stuff, you have to wait to the end, because once that starts growing, it's so big, and then you can't put it in the ground for, I don't know how many, 8 weeks or something. So,
They
so
hate-
you want to hold off on that. Pepper hopefully will grow, but the salad mix, you could definitely get those. And now I guess what Bill and Sarah was saying, they take those little fellas, and they, don't damage the roots, and then transfer those into larger pots.
Yeah.
If you
So
can,
Lisa,
be
when
very
did you,
gentle.
when did you plant your peppers, Lisa? How many weeks ago?
At the same time.
When?
I want to say it was really like less than 2 weeks ago.
Oh, what you want to do is take some saran wrap and put it just over your peppers. Because
That-
peppers
There's a
peppers
plastic
need,
lid there in the front. So they do have a lid over the, that's a plastic lid that I've been keeping over it, but you're
Oh, I
saying.
see, okay.
yeah, but see,
Yeah.
but what you're doing is different plants need different temperatures.
Okay,
So I tried it, like your brassicas you put in one group. I do all my lettuce stuff just in the ground. Your peppers and tomatoes need much more warmth. So that's why I give them their own trays. So with your peppers, you don't want to cover up these with the saran wrap, but you put the saran wrap right on top.
okay.
And that helps to hold more heat in. They need heat. And they might come up. They take quite a while to germinate.
Same seeds, they did work last year, kind of in the same setup. But
I
yeah,
wouldn't give up on them yet.
okay.
I definitely wouldn't give up on them either. And
No.
like Sarah said, if they need the warmth. So
Yeah.
then I don't know if these cells separate or if you have the ability to get the peppers out. The heat mat makes all the difference with a pepper.
Yep.
It needs warm soil.
Yes, same with the squash too, because squash likes warm weather, but I would put squash in anything in that family, the pumpkin family or the cucumber family. I put that directly in the ground. I personally, I see a little benefit of starting it early. In other people claim it helps them out, but I always plant like anything, pumpkins, watermelon, squash, zucchini, any of that stuff. I just put it directly in the ground. The third week of May, between the second and last week of May, if you follow the weather closely, you might be able to get away with by Mother's Day, but on the safe side, you're better off doing it the third or last week of May. You want the weather, you want the soil to be warm. So it's really dependent on the season. If you get a warm spring and the soil's warm, there's no danger of frost, you can put it in when those conditions are met. But
Yeah, a lot of people wind up saying that the stuff you plant in the ground that grows is gonna surpass the stuff that you started earlier with, with any type of vining
Yeah.
plant. But the lettuce, you could definitely, someone just asked Paula as well, is it too early to put lettuce directly in the ground?
No.
Next
We're gonna-
couple of days it is.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough
right,
call
yeah,
because of
Not
the weather.
today, but
Yes.
in the next week or two, you're okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I would look at the weather, and if you're gonna get like this kind of weather forecast, I would hold off. If not, it's not too early. It just really depends on the season. But this kind of weather is unusual, but it's really,
So
It is.
I got ahead of myself and I put seeds in last week. So I don't know what's gonna happen with them.
it might survive. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else I tried putting in.
You got overexcited in the warm weather, right? You got
Everyone
excited.
does.
Exactly. I got very, very excited and also I want to cut back this year dramatically, but we'll see if I can do it.
Cut back what?
Everything. I want to,
No,
yeah,
more. Where do you live?
I live in Chester.
Oh, well, I'm sure someone will want your excess food or food bank or something, whatever you're growing.
Yeah.
But that's up to you. Grow to a point that you're not driving yourself, crazy.
I was driving myself crazy.
I was going to piggyback on what Mark said about Lisa's starts here. I've tried, and what you were saying too, Chad, I've done side by side comparison of like cucumbers and some zucchini and stuff by having starts and then right next to it doing a direct sow. And my direct sow far exceed where my starts are. And just as like a rule that I think about, like when I'm starting seeds, any of the seeds that are kind of enormous, I'm not really looking to direct sow because they're going to blow up and just kind of keep going. The seeds
agree.
that are smaller, they have smaller, it's smaller tap roots, smaller, everything just to take some more time. But yeah,
that's a good thing, Nicole. You hit it pretty good. The bigger the seed, because beans you don't do corn. I've seen people do it, but like to me, I don't see the benefit. I never see. They always catch up, and sometimes surpass. But you're right.
That's
The
a-
bigger the seed, that makes a lot of sense. I never
Yeah, that's a
thought
good,
of it.
rule. So that's a good rule. The bigger the seed, put direct sow.
because
Because they're more robust, I guess.
they are more robust and they get really finicky. They don't like to be transferred, right? Pumpkins
Yeah,
don't
that's right. Pumpkin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
like to be transferred. Their roots are like, no, I'm not happy. So and they're so big and they take off so fast, direct sow all the way.
I will second that. I experimented with the zucchini, starting it ahead of time one year and put them out. And then I did the way I always do them. I plant my zucchinis in hill. Yeah, within a week, the ones I direct sowed were like the same size. So don't bother. It's like people who sell those beans in little pots at the garden center. What a ripoff.
Yeah.
You put the beans in the ground.
Soak
When
them
it-
first, but then put them in the ground.
All right, look,
Now,
we
what
have an-
about cucumbers?
Same thing,
Because
cucumbers
Straight in the ground.
that's in the same family as squash, as the zucchini. They're all in the same family. They call it the cucumber family. It's the cucumber family, the pumpkin family, but they're all in that same family. And like watermelon, cantaloupe, gourds, winter squash, summer squash, zucchini, cucumbers, anything in that family. Like Nicole said, it doesn't. I mean, if you want to, you can, but I don't see the benefit. And I think you're better off just putting it directly in.
I guess I'm just greedy when it comes to wanting an earlier cucumber harvest to have with my early greens for my salad. And I found that the cucumbers are actually more finicky than the tomatoes are in terms of wanting warmth and heat. And I did not know that. You have to be so careful with the cucumbers. So I start them from seed in the past. I started them from seed indoors. Molly coddled them and they got way too grimy and leggy. So I ended up just giving up on cucumbers for a few years in a row, getting them from someone who grew them and put them in the garden. But like I said, it's been hit or miss with the cucumbers for me because of that.
My cucumbers are one of the first things that take off in my garden. They're one of my first harvests. And I mean, if I feel like I should be doing peas now to try to look out for my future. Maybe peas will be first, looking forward. But cucumbers for me, they vine and they do really well. But you know what? Some people can't grow zucchini or not can't, but have a hard time year to year. So maybe unfortunately that's cucumbers for you.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. So you definitely direct seed. What time of year? Like mid-May?
Yeah, I don't go until after Memorial Day. I've
Yep.
learned my lesson now. I don't go in before because we have those rogue frosts and
Yep.
I work too hard and I want to make sure that that soil is the right temperature. And it kills me because I see all my friends and lots of people going in. I'm like, oh, I want to put this stuff in. I can't wait, especially the starts or just the packets of seeds that I have that I want to direct sow. But I'm diligent now. I'm trying to be really like on waiting until that last weekend of May, the first weekend of June.
Yeah,
And I
I say
have
Memorial Day.
done
Yeah, I agree 100% Memorial Day. Yeah, because because like you said, you can get those rogue frosts or those, not even frost, if it gets down in the 40s, the plants get stunted. So you're better off just waiting a week or two, wait until the soil warms up and the weather is really settled, and then just plant them, and you'll end up, all the people planted early, if they get that rogue frost or that cold spell, it's going to stunt their growth. You're going to end up having the cucumbers just as soon as them, if not earlier. So.
Yeah, it's true.
If-
I remember last year, people were like going crazy trying to cover up their plants. Was it last year or before?
Year before.
Yeah, before.
Oh, it was terrible.
Wait, it's me every year.
The what?
It's me every year.
You know, if you
We're gonna get, Michelle, you want to give a description of yours? We're getting close to the hour, so let's show you what you
Okay.
have.
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is my future. I didn't take any pictures of the enclosed vegetable bed just because it's really messy right now and there's not much going on. This is a picture of a future bed in which I plan to plant my squashes and maybe some corn. I'm following the, don't know if everybody can see that, Ruth Stout Gardening Without Work book. This was published in the 60s. Yeah, Ruth Stout.
All the way.
I bought copies for all my friends, as you can see.
Could you repeat that, Michelle? What was that?
It's called Gardening Without Work by Ruth Stout.
Okay.
And she wrote this book in the 60s. And she's like, if you're working other than planting and transplanting, you're doing way too much. You shouldn't be digging. You shouldn't be fertilizing. She believes in mulching, and just pulling away the mulch and planting in the spaces, and then sort of, pushing the mulch back. Obviously not touching the stem of your little plants, but keeping the soil covered in many inches of mulch. And what you see here is a 10 by 10 bed. We put some soil down because the ground is super rocky. And then, so there's about 2, maybe 3 inches of soil on top. And then we've just piled rotting hay on top of that. And I'm going to see how that goes.
I love it. I've been doing it for 2 years. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. The more mulch, the better. Honestly, she would look at that and be like, triple mulch that. When we start at the beginning of the season, it's like knee height before all the water and everything starts coming down on it. I barely have to weed. It's incredible. I love Ruth Stout.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that, Nicole. I have more hay, so I can pile more.
Do it.
Good.
I did that on one of my 20 by 20s where I'm growing tomatoes. I never heard of her, but I just said, same idea. I don't want to work. I want to make this as easy as possible. I just go to the store. I buy like 12 bales of hay and I pile it like 9 inches deep. Everyone looks at me like I'm crazy, and it just goes down to about 3 inches. The soil is unbelievable. I pull the soil away. I plant my tomato. I put the cage on top, and I'm done. It's so easy to do. Soil is beautiful. The weeds are reduced by like 90-95%. I have very little bindweed. I go in there and pluck it out. It's amazing it's just so easy. It's like, it's not for everything, but
Is that hay or straw?
it's beautiful.
This
Using?
is actually hay, but it is rotting hay.
Okay, okay.
It's
And
been
Mark-
sitting outside and getting snow and rained on for a long time.
Mark, do you use hay or straw?
I go down to Adams and I buy 12 bales of hay at the beginning of the season. I put down 6 in the beginning. I saved 6 for the end of the season, and I put down 6 in the winter, in the fall, after I take everything out. So there's constantly a layer of hay. In the springtime, it melts down. I put another layer on top. The soil is actually 3 inches higher than everything around it now. It just keeps building up. And I know that it's all rotting. I know I don't need to put a lot of fertilizer on. Like I said, the weeds are just reduced a huge amount. But I know the hay that Adam sells, very little, if any, there's no weed seeds in it because I never get any weeds from the hay. I mean, the only thing is it's expensive. I think, especially now, it went up to like $17 or $18 a bale. So I'm spending a lot of money on it. I'm growing the $100 tomato, and I don't care.
So, so what I've been doing the last several years, honestly, once we're really getting into the spring now, I look for the first cutting of grass, because the first cutting that everybody's doing locally, there's not a lot of time for it to go to seed. They're not waiting that long.
Oh, good point, Nicole.
Looking for first cuttings.
That's a good idea. I could probably get cheaper. I'm just afraid if they put any herbicides on it or any kind of stuff like that. And I know that if I get it from Adams, I'm not going to get that. So, but yeah.
I find I find local farmers on Facebook Marketplace. Last 2 times, I've had them deliver for me. they deliver and bring the bales to me, and they'll throw them right next to my garden. And then the ones that I want, I put like in the back of the carriage house behind where I have my compost, just to keep adding as the season happens. And you can get really good prices for their first cuttings, especially if some of it has gone rotten, because if they're using it for their animals, they can't use it for the animals if it's gone rotten.
We don't care. If it's rotting,
Right.
I don't
We
care.
don't care, right? But they care.
I should talk to you, or text you because I'd be interested in finding if somebody has it cheaper, because it is expensive if I go to Adams, but I know I'm getting good quality, so.
Wait, guys, sorry, Sylvia was saying, do you guys have any trouble with critters going into the?
So Sylvia, this is a new bed. I haven't planted anything in it yet. I'm hoping to do squashes only and maybe some corn. I've read, and of course, things look different on paper, and maybe the deer haven't read the same books, that they will leave squashes alone. What is your guys' experience? Am I going to have a crop, or are they going to mow it down?
I'm fenced, so I can't answer you.
Your corn, well, it depends on how many deer you have. Your corn plants are fine, but they'll probably eat the ears of corn.
Yeah. How
And
about the
those-
squash?
The groundhogs might eat it.
Yeah, I haven't seen many groundhogs here. I mean, I'm the first to eat my words, but we'll see, I guess. The dogs are out in the garden with me every day, so I feel like the deer pressure has been minimized by having the doggies out. So that's
My
been a good thing.
experience is the deer will come out at night and eat anything.
This is true. This is true. I guess we'll see. This is an experiment.
Yeah, I found that the raccoons will love corn and
Yeah.
they can climb. And the only way I keep them out is with a small electric fence that I put around the
geez.
corn. And it's this thing that you set up each year and take down. It's just a little tiny wire thing on plastic stakes, and it does work. It does keep them from taking the corn. Other than that, I have a bigger fence for deer and other animals and stuff like that. But the raccoons are great climbers. So
Yeah.
you need to do something more.
And also,
Yeah.
someone mentioned there's Adams in Middletown now. That's good to know.
Okay.
And
This is my
next picture.
my second and last slide. This is the inside, the one side of the greenhouse. This is my winter lettuces that I've made. It looks like hardly a dent in. I guess I haven't been eating as much lettuce as I should have been. On the left is what's left of my arugula. In the middle is mache, which is, I'm forgetting the common name for it now. And then on the right is winter lettuce. And I, like Bill, have hardly been watering. Just now when it gets warmer, you check the soil and give it, 1 can of water. But for the most part, we need to empty this out so we can start planting some things in here. And that's it from me.
Very nice. And also Mark. Mark, we'll get to you in a second. I just want to, because it's getting late. Lisa asked about any advice on Brussels sprouts. What's the best time to plant them, or do you start them from seed, or anyone have any advice on Brussels sprouts?
I saw some really beautiful looking purple ones in the seed catalog, and I'm a big fan of them, and I like the way they grow too. And since they come up mostly towards the fall, I thought that could be nice to have something then. So yeah, any advice about that?
They need a really long season. Like when I've grown them, I've bought plants just because we were just trying a few of them. In the community garden, we didn't have great success with them, but there's some different things don't grow there. So I wouldn't go by that. Like I can't grow eggplants there, but I would get the package and look on it, because they're not ready until fall. But even if you put in, say, 4-6-inch seedling in May, you're not going to have Brussels sprouts until the fall. So give it a shot, or go out and buy some plants somewhere and see how it goes.
And Lisa, do you have space in your backyard, or did you find a spot with some sunlight, or no?
Probably I wouldn't be doing this on my own, in my own space.
Well, don't forget, we're gonna be going to the community garden on Saturday. If you want to come by 13 Poplar Street, check us out in the morning.
Shameless
And,
self-promotion, Chad. I love it.
Well, she lives right behind me, so
It's a
Huh?
really far walk.
yeah,
No, I love
I'm trying to get my neighbors involved.
No, that's good.
And also before we go, well, maybe we'll save that for another time, Mark, about repellents and stuff. That could be a whole section onto itself.
Sounds good, thanks.
You know, once we start getting involved in that, that could be another hour, and I don't
Yeah,
like to hold
yeah.
people too late. If we go back to the slideshow, Christy, thank you, you're doing an amazing job. Our next one's going to be Monday, April 11th, 7:30. And by every Monday, well, every other Monday. So the first and thirds will be pollinator pathway meetings, and the second and fourth will be Zoom garden plot. Bill Green hosts pollinator pathway meetings. If you want to email me, I'll put you on the list. And that's much more about growing native pollinators. Or, you know, or start. He has a project. He's trying to turn his meadow, his lawn into meadow. And Nicole put something about Brussels sprouts. If you want to read that, Lisa. Yeah, and right, to be honest with you, I find that I try to grow Brussels sprouts, and I was pretty successful, but the critters really get those. That's a battle just to fight them off. They're like constantly getting any type of cabbage or Brussels sprout and
Yeah,
it takes so long that it was a lot of work.
The hard thing is with something like that, in my opinion, is it takes up so much room in the garden. The
Right.
yield is so big, and then you are constantly fighting like the cabbage moth, like those little white butterflies that maybe when you were a kid were so beautiful. Now you're like, die!
Right, I find, right, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, I love them, but they take a long time to grow, they're big, and they get, you like literally battling, unless you want to cover them, which is good. Michael added this, sorry, in the meetings, no mow May yard signs. We're trying, that's going to be a hard sell to say no one should mow their lawn for all of May, which I don't think Greenwood Lake is going to work. People love to mow their lawns here. It's almost like a profession between raking the leaves and mowing the lawns. They're very, very passionate about that. But feel free if you want to, at the community center, they have them there and we could promote that. Because, right, that's another thing with the natives. Is leaving the leaf, that'll be another, we'll go more of that in the pollinator pathways, but more about leaving leaves, even leaving the garden as is, because, billions of little critters are nesting in there. They're, we've got to really think of the whole ecosystem and have a different version of what we think of as neat or clean. The community center is in Warwick. Where's the address, Sarah?
Hamilton Avenue. Do you know where the country club is?
In Warwick, there's a nice country club right by there. That's where the community garden is. You can check that out. But the community center has this no mate, and right. So Lisa, we'll get people on both sides. We'll promote. But thank you. Well, I think that's. Oh wait, quick, Chris, do you want to get that in quick? Sorry, forgot about you.
Yeah, okay, so I'll make it really fast. I do a hydroponic kind of thing at home. And in the winter I grow lettuce and such. So these are my beets, and really I'm just growing it for the beet greens, and that's watercress. And that's about 3 weeks of growth there. So anyway, my problem is when I try to start spinach seeds, they get moldy. And I read somewhere that when you jostle the roots, but they never even get to making roots. And it could be because they're in sort of like a plug of peat moss in the water with the vitamins and stuff in it. Maybe it's just too wet, but I wondered if anybody had experience with that.
It sounds
Only spinach in the ground.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, we're kind of a soil group. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
But there might be better plants that that could take more. Spinach is very finicky anyway to grow. But anyone have any thoughts on this or?
Well, spinach likes to be really cool. And
mhm.
maybe house temperature may make it not grow as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, between the lights and the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that may be part of the problem.
Right.
And
That's
if
a
it
good
doesn't
point.
grow much, it's sitting there and, it's gonna get diseased and.
Yeah, yeah.
like
that
that.
makes
Right, so
sense.
you might want to plant very warm loving
Right,
plants.
well, I'll wait to do the spinach outside, but
That's kind of cool futuristic looking device
Yeah.
though.
yeah, it is. It's good. There's a piece that fits into it. You can take that one out, which holds 6 plants, and there's a piece that's just for starting seeds. And
Oh, wow.
so I forget how many are on it. There might be 16 or so little spots, but they do come up really quick. So I do use that early spring, whatever.
Oh, and thank you very much. Before we leave, Mark did remind me, last year we were discussing kind of like natural dyes. I think Michelle and Mark were like growing plants to make their own dyes, and Mark mentioned he gives a little packet stuff here, and that's that would be interesting if you guys really go ahead with that project. That's interesting, plants for dyes, plants for medicine, all different needs, and we could get into that. Again, maybe we could have one session focused on that. But thank you everyone again. It was a great first session, first season. I really appreciate it. And again, we'll see you hopefully on April 11th, that Monday. And thank you very much. Take care.